Hello, everyone, and welcome to our series on self marriage. I'm here with Sasha Cagen, who's going to share with us today about her experience. Welcome, Sasha. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Megan. It's cool to be here with you.
Yeah, and your self marriage journey began when you wrote your book, Quirky Alone. Will you tell us about how this project got self marriage on your radar?
Okay. Well, I wrote a book called Quirky Alone, a manifesto for uncompromising romantics that came out in 2004. So that's almost 20 years ago. That's like 17 years ago, something like that. And this is the book itself, the hardcover and the paperback.
Hmm.
So, quirky alone is a word that I coined, and I wrote an essay before there was a book, and that essay sort of went viral before things went viral. That wasn't really a word we were all using then. And quirky alone described people who have the capacity to enjoy being single, but most important, don't want to settle. So these are people who do want relationship, but may spend a long period of time single and wonder, is there something wrong with me? And so coining this word sort of created a feeling of community and not being alone for people, and it really struck people at a deep level. And inherent in the concept was self-love, basically that you can be a whole person whether you're with someone or not with someone, which seems sort of logical, but a lot of people, many of us struggle with that. Maybe a little bit less so now because our ideas have gotten a little bit more open-minded and advanced about single people, but at that time, and still people sort of struggle with feeling like something is wrong with them. So when I was doing the research for that book, like you, I talked to quirky alones or quirky togethers who are quirky alones in relationship, and was interviewing them. And actually it was at my job. I had a proofreading job at the time. One of my coworkers told me about a woman who had married herself, and then I think I heard about another one too. So in the end, I profiled two women in Quirky Alone who married themselves, and their stories both included marriage afterwards, but the self marriage represented a key phase, especially for one of them, of recognizing that she had lost herself in a lot of relationships and that she wanted to do this ritual of honoring herself and sort of putting herself on a different path of not giving herself away and self-abandoning in relationship. And actually her spouse to be became like a big participant in the self wedding. And then I think there was something funny that on her honeymoon she ran into an ex at a hot springs. So anyway, her story had a lot of good twists, and she had twins in the end after they got married. So her story was like just amazing, and I told that story in this book. And actually in this book like includes a lot of artwork, and oh my gosh, there's like Argentine money coming out.
We'll get to that later, folks.
There's a lot of money here. No, anyway, so I included in here a letter that she wrote to her legislator, where she proposed that a self marriage be a prerequisite for
Mm.
marrying another person.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Love that.
It's just great because you have the response from the legislator saying something like, "Thank you for your idea." I really take it seriously, but that hasn't happened. We're still working on that as a requirement, but I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. It's
So that's where it got started, and then I think I'm one of the first people to sort of write about it in a book, because then later on people would contact me a lot about it
Hmm.
just because was in Quirky Alone.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That is so fantastic. And that 10 years went by from the time you wrote the book to the time you actually married yourself. What evolved in that decade?
Yeah, well, a lot. So that was the 10 years of my 30s. And, I think most women, I don't know, for me, 30s was a really big year of
Mm.
confronting questions about, was I going to be a mother, and was I going to meet my partner in time to have a child or get married or, buy a house, or all of those sort of milestones that are important in one's 30s. So basically when I interviewed these women when I was 30, I didn't really relate
Mm.
feeling the need to marry myself. It seemed interesting conceptually and like great idea, but not something I felt called to do.
Yeah.
But I think that the difference is between 30 and 40, because by the time, well, first of all, by the time you're 40, there's just a lot more pressure about whether you have found a partner by then.
Mm.
And you're entering, and I think there's also a bit of like facing mortality, because it's like, now I'm 40, I've
Yeah.
lived a lot of years. Um, and then specifically in my case, in those years, and this is something I'm writing about in my memoir, Wet, that is on the way.
Nice.
My agent has the proposal now after lots of years of writing the actual book. But in those years between 35 and 40, I stumbled into a deep healing process of all of the kind of shame that I was actually still dealing with, even though I was this sort of advocate for single people and, telling people to let go of their shame, to embrace their lives. I was still dealing with a lot of that myself. And yeah, and that time I uncovered the importance of an incident of childhood sexual abuse that I had never spoken about,
Mm.
and basically did a lot of therapy, coaching, and even in tango, actually, which is another connection we have. I found a lot of healing of sort of facing what had been caused in me by
Mm.
keeping a secret, all of this sort of shame and unhealthy patterns that I had of not speaking up or not feeling worthy. And so basically, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I don't talk about in the media, because it's just too deep, and they're not going to get into healing and trauma and all of
Mhm.
that, or it's just more difficult to share.
Yeah.
But literally, really, how it was for me, that the self marriage was a way of giving myself a ritual at 40, since I hadn't met my person. I don't know how you call it, my person who I thought was going to be a very long person. That
Mm.
hadn't happened by then. And like, I had been doing all this work on self-love that had been very deep, about owning the parts of myself that had been difficult, and
Mm.
really working with all these fragile parts of myself that were not the confident exterior that I present to the world.
Mm.
And the self-marriage really felt like a way of honoring all of me and all of my story, including the difficult parts. And so, yeah, that was the meaning of it. And I don't know, there'll be like another question to talk specifically, but I did it in Buenos Aires in this like totally magical, creative, random way with my friends
Well,
there.
yeah, let's dig into that. So take us into that day, your self-marriage day. What was it like?
So it was totally a sisterhood. It was really, really important to have that one friend who got it. And in
Mm.
fact, my best friend in Buenos Aires, who's from Colombia, had already married herself
Love.
in a very kind of simple way. She had a dream about marriage anxiety, basically, like, I'm too old, I haven't got married, and then next day she sort of intuitively decided that she would marry herself as the answer to that
Love
anxiety.
it. Mhm.
So she just bought a ring at one of the big fairs, ferias in Buenos Aires, and she just, that was it. She was married. So she was there with me, and I was actually having a lot of trouble with setting a date and actually doing it.
Mm.
I had gotten engaged in California with my friends there. Um, on the way back from a trip to the hot springs at a gas station. Like, that's a whole other story, but it just kind of happened. These are like my self-marriage story of things that just happened, like
Mm.
very, they just surged from the moment. But yeah,
And sorry, you got engaged to yourself or to someone else?
just to myself. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
I enjoyed a whole 9-month engagement to myself.
okay. Tell us that story. We have to pause. We're pausing the self-marriage in Buenos
Okay,
Aires.
we have to go to the
Go to the
engagement in
gas
California.
station.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, this is a great story. That was my 40th birthday trip, and I actually share my birthday with two friends. So we have this ritual of doing things together. And that year we went to a hot springs for the weekend with another of our close friends. And basically, like, I wanted to have like some sort of self-engagement party in that weekend, but I didn't really know what I wanted to be. And I felt shy. Like, I was having trouble like taking that space for myself, because it was
Mm.
also their birthday. And so I basically had some like pent up emotion about it. Like I didn't get what I wanted, but I didn't ask for it. And, that kind of feeling. And it just came out like, I think when we were driving away, that like I was feeling angsty about that. And I opened up to them, and they were so beautiful. And when we stopped at the gas station, it turned out to be like this magical gas station in the desert with lots of gifts. Like it was like a huge convenience store with like a lot of jewelry and um like just weird things, a lot of self-help books too. It was just a very unusual gas store. And so basically we bought a necklace there that said Love Alexandra, which is my formal name.
Hmm.
And we did a photo shoot at the gas station, and that was like the engagement. But
Wait,
it was
so the photo shoot at the gas station, were you like pumping gas? Were you like out, what were you doing?
no, 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 no. I don't like pumping gas. I'll pay to have people pump gas for me. No, just in front of the gas station with the jewelry we bought inside. Like everything
Mm,
was sourced at the gas station. That was part of the ceremony of engagement,
nice.
which was really just simple. It was more about opening up and getting support, and
Yeah.
it's a pretty vulnerable thing, I would think, to say to your friends that you want to marry yourself and that you would like their support, because it's generally not what everyone else is doing.
Mm,
I mean, I was lucky with the friend in Colombia that she had taken that step,
mm.
but I was the only one among my friends in California, and there's some shame around that too, because it's like, well, look, these people are in long-term relationships or marrying, and it just feels a bit weird to step into that. But then on the other side is like this sort of understanding and support, which is like really beautiful.
Yeah. So you walked in, and did you tell them before you bought the necklace, I want to marry myself. I'd like your support. Was it after you bought it? How did that unfold?
They knew that it was something I wanted to do, but I
Mm.
myself had not. Like one of my friends, Liz, had suggested, like, we can paint you in white during the wedding. And I rejected that idea because I was like, I don't want that. Like, I never wanted anything to do with like white
Mm.
iconography. Like, that for me is about symbolizing virginity. And I'm just like, that's not me. I'm 40. Like, um so basically I didn't know what I wanted, and then it just all came together. So they knew it was a desire, and it just kind of magically came together as the thing to do, because I don't know, we just said we were going to do it, and it turned out to be this gas station with everything we needed.
Wow. Okay, so you decided before the gas station that you were going to do it. You showed up, you were like, this is it. And then did you say anything to yourself? Like, was there a moment where you said, Sasha, will you marry me? Or was it you bought the necklace and that was game over?
So I mean, like in this modern age, like a ceremony there, it was pretty simple. It was just taking pictures, and it was
Mm.
very giddy. And I find that it turns out to be a very happy occasion for everyone else who's like around the person who's self-marrying, because it's like it feels very good,
Hmm.
to sort
Yeah.
of make this declaration about honoring and caring for yourself. It's sort of contagious in a way. So it was like, imagine like you're in a fight with your partner or anyone you're in an intimate relationship with, and it just kind of evolved from there. Like it
Yeah.
was just sort of an intense moment of coming clean about, I wasn't happy because we didn't do my thing, and but I didn't ask for it, and then it just happened.
Wow. Oh, so you like, that's beautiful. So in naming it and naming the upset, suddenly this like the serendipity of this magical gas station showed
Exactly.
up.
With jewelry that had my name on it, which isn't even common, like they're not
Mm,
always going to have Alexandra. Like I grew up without, when you go on vacation and there's like keychains, they didn't always have
yeah. Oh, so good. Okay, so then let's like fast forward to the back to Buenos Aires when you're getting ready to marry yourself.
Yeah, so then a bunch of time passed when I couldn't seem to make it work in California. And I didn't want to have to be like a Burning Man thing. Like it just felt like in the Bay Area it was going to turn into this like Burning Man-esque thing, and I didn't want that. And so yeah, I was in Buenos Aires for 2 months then, and I had this friend Ale who had already done it, and she was really key because she was a bit of a coach for me in terms of keeping me accountable, about
Mm.
picking a date, about picking the outfit, where to do it. It was her suggestion about where to do it. So it was a real expression of love, of friendship. And she was over at my place the night before. picking out the outfit, telling me to take a bath, you know. It's
Hmm.
your last night as a single woman.
Yeah, yeah.
It was very sweet. It was very sweet. And then the next day, it was just Ale and my friend Nele. So Ale is from Colombia and Nele is from Estonia.
Mm,
Tango friends in Buenos Aires. So it brings together like international people.
yes.
And we did it in the Japanese gardens in Buenos
Oh.
Aires, up on the second floor, outside, up sort of balcony outside a restaurant, sushi restaurant. And it was just very peaceful and zen. And that's what I wanted.
Did you have vows that you said that day, or what actually happened during the ceremony?
We had a real ceremony then
Mm.
that was, so that, yeah, oh, I can show the video of that now.
Great.
Let's see. Okay, we're going to do, oh, let me go back to Zoom. Share screen. Okay. So, all right, first I'll just show some pictures. So this is Ale, the woman that I'm talking about from Colombia,
Mm.
who, you know, is my soul sister who really helped me actually do it. Um, let's see. This is up on that balcony with the
Hmm.
that Ale gave me from that she bought in Colombia. So that was really sweet. That was during the ceremony. This is afterwards, the taking pictures.
Beautiful.
And that's Nele, who's from Estonia. So these are my two bridesmaids slash supporters.
Love it.
That's me afterwards. Oh, and this is at the gas station. This is what I was telling you about.
Nice.
This gas station provided this necklace. Really incredible. Um, okay, and so now, yeah, let's see.
Oh, it's in Spanish. Look at that.
Yeah, that this is that's some different press that I did in Buenos Aires about self-marriage because later I became famous as the first
De
woman.
Sasha, yo voy. Voy.
That's me saying in Spanish today, I'm going to marry myself. So that was kind of like the drama of the moment. So yeah, there's this video. So basically it was the three of us sitting on this balcony, and yeah, the ceremony consisted of basically me reading my vows and the two of them offering kind of blessings
Hmm.
and reflections, and Nelly did something with peanuts cracking them on the floor or something that was related to an Estonian ritual of good luck or something like that.
Huh.
So yeah, it was really cool. And then afterwards, we had lunch at the sushi restaurant and basically just spent the day together.
That's so wonderful. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing that with us. It's fun to see you guys in action. Like, it's one thing to see the photos and then really seeing you speaking, being together, laughing. It gives a sweet suggestion of the vibe from that day.
Yeah, it was very gleeful, and I think it lifted everyone up. And Nellie was only 30 at that time, and she didn't get it either, just like I didn't. And look, she married herself too recently.
So good.
She was like spreading the message in Estonia. And so I think actually she might have done some media in Estonia or something. So yeah, it's really kind of wild.
I love that. And since doing it, how has self marriage shaped your life?
Well, for one, I talk about it in media, so it's like become this sort of never-ending advocacy. Um, yeah, I think it's always there as a reference point. For me, it's sort of like life is an ongoing journey of, you know, kind of healing, really, for me, of, you know, healing some issues that came up because of my childhood and things that happened and the way that this culture impacts me as a woman. And I would say, yeah, I've been like really, how many years now? I don't know, about 10 years, like really focused on, um, in a way, you can say learning how to love myself in a
Mm.
more and more profound way and stand up for myself and speak and kind of reverse patterns. Like, you know, even, oh, this guy dumped me, this guy ghosted me, you know, like the pattern in the past is to, you know, make this the worst most horrible thing, and that it means something about me, and that I'm doomed, and stuff like that, of just sort of
Yeah.
spiraling in negativity. And I would say in moments like that, or even in moments in a workplace with like a boss who's not
Mm.
respectful, that the self marriage and those vows are kind of a redirection of like, okay. Or even it just comes up like this morning, like I've been going through some recovery from fatigue. Like I have these sort of crashes, and one of my vows in self marriage was to put my life before my work, basically
Mm.
to put my well being first. And this is sort of a daily ongoing challenge to sort of say like, no, I have to work at my own pace. I can only do things at my own pace. And if I need a day that's really simple,
Mhm.
that's what I need, because, well, A, I'm going to be better at my work afterwards, but B, this was my commitment to myself. So it's nice that you have these vows. And what I say about it is that the power is that you say it in front of someone else, and it's part of this ritual. So like obviously we all make a ton of promises to ourselves all the time,
Yeah.
and we don't always honor them. And I don't honor all my self marriage vows perfectly either, but it's just a bit more powerful than your typical birthday or New Year's reflection or whatever.
Yeah. Have you created any rituals that have allowed you to embody more of what you promised yourself, whether it's an anniversary or something else?
Ah, you mean of the self marriage?
Yeah. Looking at your ring and anniversary practices.
Mm, not really. I'm pretty bad at a lot of things. I don't expect, like, I've had like a number of self-wedding rings over the years.
I
So
love it. I love it. What a perfect example of like, there's no wrong way to do this. You can change your ring, you can have rituals afterwards or not. Like, I love that.
yeah, for me, it's just there as a concept. And and nothing is ever perfect. Life is full of sort of going backwards and forwards and all around. But and the other piece, I think, I wouldn't say that marrying myself definitely doesn't take the place of marrying someone else. And a big part of my advocacy around this is always making it clear that
Yeah.
it's not exclusive, or this is what people don't understand immediately.
Mm.
um but I would say it's not only my self marriage, but all of my life, like getting on in my 40s, and at this point still not having married a man or another person. I guess I just feel better about that.
Mm.
you know
Yeah.
that there's just such a heavy charge on that, for everyone, for women, for men, especially for women. And I think one thing that's been really interesting for me is that I came back to the States, after 5 years away in Argentina, and I've been dating men who took the traditional path. And I've just realized that it's not that great always. Like, that there were things that
Nice.
I thought that I didn't have, that, I think I think being in a deep relationship is a great thing, and it's something that I value a lot.
Mhm.
Um, but there are many people who are in long marriages that aren't very engaged, or, are just kind of, it's not actually that much of a relationship, let's say.
Yeah.
So I think that, the self marriage doesn't take the place of marriage, but it's just part of an alternative life path, and part of valuing everything that can come out of that, and not constantly comparing it to the traditional and thinking the traditional was better.
Yeah, and for a lot of women that I've talked to, it's even the step before marriage, sort of like your friend wrote that letter, the woman in the book wrote that letter. It's a way to really become solid in ourselves, because that is what we can control, and that is the one relationship that we really have true agency over. And I don't know about you, but I think it's made me better in all of my other relationships, romantic or otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, for me, it's hard to separate it out from all the other work that I was doing, because I
Yeah.
was doing a ton of work on in therapy and coaching, and I'm just in my own attention in my life to become, yeah, better at relationship. But it would definitely was part of that, because in so many ways, like, you can open up and be more intimate if you really if you approve of yourself, to just be real, then someone can
Yes.
really get to know you, and just so many ways and of being compassionate with oneself as the path
Mm.
of relationship.
Yes, absolutely. And since you married yourself and wrote this book, you've also created this beautiful career as an empowerment coach and working with women, many of whom have married themselves. What difference do you see that it makes for them?
Yeah, it's big. I mean, I have worked with women who are already married and are doing the self marriage as part of even working through issues in the marriage, and kind of coming back to oneself and becoming stronger to then be able to relate differently, or negotiate differently with, or become closer
Mm.
actually with the partner. So I've seen that, and that's been really cool. And I've had um, one woman came to Buenos Aires, because I also had this part of my coaching business was about tango for 5 years,
Nice.
and with a similar message of empowerment and self connection in order to have a better connection with another person.
Mm.
And she married herself that week, also spontaneously. She was, inspired by the fact that I did it in the Japanese garden. So she found another kind of art landmark in Buenos Aires and did it there at this
Mm.
flower sculpture that opens to the sun. So it was like a really beautiful metaphor of like every
Wow.
day in Buenos Aires, there's this big silver metallic flower that rotates and opens to the sun and then
Mm.
closes. So anyway, yeah, I got to be part of her ceremony and officiate it. And, we invited another woman who was part of the week who got it,
Mm.
and then, yeah, there have been women in Argentina who reached out after the media coverage and wanted to marry themselves. So I've accompanied them. And yeah, I mean, it really, I can only say that it's a milestone, and
Mm.
it just becomes, I think, imbued with a lot of meaning for that person.
Yeah.
And yeah, really rewarding to be part of it.
Mm. I love that. So, you'd mentioned in our previous conversation that a lot of women prefer to have a small, intimate ceremony, much like the one that you did. Why do you think that is?
I mean, I think it's only a very particular kind of person who wants to have a lot of attention on their self wedding. I mean, it's so
Mm.
intimate and it's a little bit revolutionary still, and counterculture.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, it could be that the women who are attracted to me are similar to me. They're a bit more introverted and more yeah, I mean, doing it on your own with a candle in your room is like completely acceptable in my
Mm.
book. I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't have, it's nice to have it witnessed by one person,
Mhm.
but it's not necessary. So, I mean, I think it's just incredibly confrontational to do it in front of a group of people. Frankly, I can't
Mm.
imagine doing that, although I know lots of people do that, and that's great. But I think doing it privately is just more accessible to, I don't want to put a value judgment on it, but I would guess that more women would be attracted to a small intimate ceremony
Mm.
of themselves, or themselves and a few other people. I don't know what you have found by talking to people.
Yeah, I mean, my marriage ceremony was 12. I've talked to people who've had big ones, small ones. It's whatever you want, really. And this idea that having a small, intimate group of people who get it is so huge. And it brings me to one of our final questions around haters. You got so much media coverage for Quirky Alone, and then you got a lot of media coverage for your self-marriage. Did you face any haters? And if so, how did you handle that?
I mean, I think I only directly faced haters in the comments section and articles in which I appeared, and Quirky Alone was such a positive message. And in the end, nobody was that anti Quirky Alone, except for like a very few people who were like, you don't like men or something like that.
Uh-huh.
But nobody, and I think it was also a kinder, gentler time in 2004 compared to now.
Mm.
Um, but with the haters, it was, yeah, it's disturbing, but I just kind of tuned them out, because that's all that I can do. And I mean, I have a baseline expectation that people won't understand, and I just kind of accept that. So if we talk about steeling oneself for something, I sort of think like some people are going to get it, most people are not, and that's really okay. you know, like it doesn't really matter. Um, and yeah, I mean, for sure, there are kind of all weird personal reactions of, people who see it on my Facebook page and then say odd things to me
Mhm.
in a milonga when I'm dancing tango or something.
Uh-huh.
There have been uncomfortable moments for sure. Um, but I guess I just take it as a side effect.
Yeah. Yeah, it does bring to the surface the people who get the inner work and the people who have not yet seen the beauty in it. And maybe they never will, but it definitely throws people into camps.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, well, yeah, there's a story of a woman in Brazil who married herself, and I think she had some mental health issues, but there were a lot of hater comments, and she wound up killing herself. So
Oof.
I think that people, it can be very damaging what people say, narcissist, or there's this kind of reaction that people have that there's something wrong with celebrating yourself and that you're selfish and you don't
Mm.
care about relationship. That's what I experience as their gut reaction. And so I've just learned that will be there and just keep talking basically, but I don't really expect to change them, or maybe they will.
Yeah, it's so important. It's part of why I love doing these interviews is that if anybody's interested in self-marriage, they understand as they watch these interviews that they are a part of a larger movement. They are a part of this unofficial community of people who have done it, who get it, and without fail, people say that it was one of the most pivotal experiences of their life. It shaped their life in a very positive way. And so there will always be people that judge what we do. Human beings, we make meaning of things, we judge things, and it's not necessarily bad or good, but it is part of the human condition to look at things and see if we understand them or not. And so I talk about in my book Self Marriage just knowing going in that people will have opinions and using it as an opportunity to practice how you want to be in the face of those opinions and how you want to care for yourself, because even if you're prepared for them, it can sometimes sting a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's really true, that it's a huge opportunity to practice staying with what you want in the face
Mm,
of all different kinds of reactions.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really true.
What advice would you give to someone considering self-marriage?
Um I think that finding one person who can be your witness and by your side is really great. So just one person, because and when I talk to people, there can be this feeling of intimidation of like, even 12 people. I'm like, wow, 12 people. So yeah, I mean, I say, one person to witness you is already a powerful thing. That's great. Um, and then yeah, I mean, I think the other advice is to have fun with it, to be creative, that it's, absolutely your chance to do it your way. And there's no wrong way, like you said. And I think that's something so beautiful about it, that it's sort of emerging and there's no consumer mandate about what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So it really helps you. Yeah, you're very free to do what you want, but I think having that person, like in my story, having that person kind of kept me accountable,
Mm.
because in the end it's something bold to do, and it's nice to have some support and someone who wants you to cross the finish line of actually doing it.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Sasha. It's been a total joy to hear about your gas station proposal and your marriage and a little glimpse into your life in Argentina. What a pleasure.
Sure, thank you. It was really fun.